Hi guys, welcome to the Tunnel Book Stretch Challenge. So, I know that you've got a massive thing of the country lane scene in the way there, but I'm actually looking at doing the Tunnel Book Stretch task today. So, having spoken about it previously, I'm combining my Little Red Riding Hood dramatic scene that I've got there for so that I've got my foreground, midground, background sort of roughly planned out, but I'm combining it with the buildings that I've used for my 3D paper city, just to give it a little bit more, just to make it a little bit more interesting, make it a little bit more engaging, blah blah blah. So that's what I'm up to today. I've done a really ropey sketch here at the moment, just to remind myself of what buildings I'm going to be doing and where exactly I'm going to place them. I'm going to make that look a bit better later on, I think, because I like my books to be nicely presented. But the idea is going to be, I'm going to do the into that I used in my tunnel book here as my background. I'm then going to have a section of the point as one of the midground pieces, so a little section here sort of peeking in. I'm then using the figure of 8 sculpture that's set in a piece of water to have the wolf peeking out from behind, and then right in the foreground I'm going to have Little Red Riding Hood all on her own. Now, having had a little look at what materials you guys are going to need, what I've got organised for myself is a ruler for my measuring out bits and pieces, my straight lines, pencil for my planning, fine liner for where I'm going round bits and pieces, and a scalpel, or craft knife is absolutely fine, because where I'm going to be cutting around some of these finer little bits, I don't want all this background. Now obviously health and safety with these, you know this by now, you've been taught this enough times, but make sure that you're using a cutting mat, make sure that your knife isn't blunt, and that's when most of the accidents happen. It's when the knife is blunt and therefore you have to drag it through your piece of paper, and make sure you're not going to be distracted, and make sure you're being nice and safe with it. So when you're using the knife, you are cutting away from your fingers, you're cutting on a board, and you are putting it away safely at the end. I'm really lucky, this little one here comes with its own little guard on it. The little red craft knives that we've used before, you know that we retract them right the way, and obviously you do not use one of these without permission, please, absolutely not. These are more than achievable with a pair of scissors. I'm going to do most of them with scissors, just hopefully prove that. So I do have scissors here as well with me here. Now the thing with the tunnel book, there's a couple of top tips I'm going to say to you now, and this is where having something like a heavy book or a I've got my cutting mat there to weight it down. Now when we come to colour these, if you colour them using paints, what's going to happen, and I'll show you it as it does, I'll do one where I weight it down and one where I don't. If you paint these sections and just leave them to dry to then put them together, what the paper's going to do is it is going to bow. You are going to get, you can actually kind of see it anyway. If I show you these pages here where I've painted on things, you can see where it's bowed the paper because I haven't put anything heavy on top of it to weight it down. So in order for us not to have all these little loose bits sort of flapping all over the place, you need to make sure that once you've painted it, it's a tricky one, because you don't obviously want to whack something on top of it and then it dries to it, but at the same time, so once it's sort of dried ish, sandwich it in between some heavy books, I'd say, or have a look and see if maybe you want to use some different illustrative techniques. I quite like this one here where it's just got mostly fine line and there's some spots of colour, so I might revisit that a little bit and see where we go with it. The other thing as well, I'd say, so obviously I've got all my equipment and materials here, and I've pulled out from an old sketchbook some bits of slightly thicker than average paper, so it's not your printing paper, so it's already got quite a nice weight to it there. So I've got all these little bits here. Now you know you've got to cut these all to the same size so they'll fit inside your concertina frame when we come to make it. I would say make your concertina frames first, because they're going to dictate what size it was. So we've been hoarding obviously massively, so luckily I've got this fella here, but already I've come a cropper because I was hoping I could literally use that side there and that side there. Brilliant, they're both the same size, I don't have to think, but as I've pulled it apart I've messed that up completely. So what I'm going to do is use this section here and fold it over and hopefully cut it so it'll be okay. Then once I've concertinaed those, I'll use whatever that measurement is there to cut all my bits of paper to the right size to then do my panels from. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so hiya guys, this is one of the next little steps for you. So I've got my my 2 bits of card. So you can see there's one that I have made earlier, and then this is the one that I've just started making now. All I've done is I've measured in 2 centimeters all across there and done a little marker at each point, and then done the same down the bottom, and I've done it like that rather than flip it, because actually if you look on that end, that's a little bit shorter. Now when it's put together, it's obviously got to mirror like that. So what I have done for myself is also, when I've started squashing it together, I've just made sure that what I've got there is the same angle. Now usually I would use a pair of scissors or something to score with. All I've done with this is, where I've done my little lines, is I've used a black biro and a ruler, or you could just use any straight edge, and I've just scored it. I would say the only thing that's annoying me at the moment is, because it's such thick card, it might actually be too thick. We'll see as it goes along, because what it's not doing, what it is doing that's really good. Okay, so here we go, pros and cons of the cardboard choice. It is staying upright. Oh gosh, she says, there we go. So it is staying upright, which is useful. Is it like that? It's like that. Okay, so which is going to be really useful, because it means it will give it this nice solid structure. And obviously when I come to stick the bits of paper in between, it means that it's nice and solid in there. However, 2 things that are irritating me. It's still quite springy. Obviously it's not like rigid, whereas I've used something like, I'm trying to think if I've got anything nearby. Okay, so if I'd maybe use the red card instead, and this is where it might have been useful, but we haven't quite finished it yet. If I'd maybe use the card from, yeah, see, look, that's a bit better, isn't it? We live and learn, but I didn't want to make it out of red. I'm now regretting my choices. I'm going to crack on with this. If it's awful, then you guys keep a note to yourself that cardboard like this would be better. What I was wittering on about a minute ago was using card from a cereal box is always really good. It's just that level of thinness, and that's the other thing that's annoying me, is it's given that kind of mucky finish to it. My choices are the Smarties or that, so we'll see how it goes. So next bit of the video you will see that hopefully I've got those little sections in it. Final piece. So I've put it together. I've used the red card in the end instead of the card that I had prophesied would be too thick and clunky. So that was this stuff here. I think it might have worked, but if I'm honest, I found that was getting a little bit annoying when I've started to put it together. So what I did was, having made all the different panels and cut them all out, is, unlike in the little template that you've got, which does it every other fold, I've done it every fold. That was simply just because that's how much card I had. It gives it a little bit more depth, obviously, if you're able to space it out a little bit more, but I don't really think it impacts it that badly. Background, I've got my into scene. If I was going to improve that, I'd probably put in some dramatic sky colour because that's quite white. I would definitely put some more detail into this. You've probably noted from the little time-lapse bit of me trying to do the point, that was a nightmare. I'm quite chuffed with that, but I feel like it needs more shadow. And my lamppost at the front here in the foreground, I'm really pleased I put that in, and the bus stop, because again, I think it just adds that little bit more depth to what's going on for you to be able to see through these sections here. But they are quite fragile. I definitely had to sandwich this. So as soon as I'd stuck it all together, so I used double-sided tape, but PVA glue would be absolutely fine, or a Pritt stick. So I stuck each side down and then did the opposite side, and then sandwiched it all together and put it underneath a big chunky book and left it for a little bit. Could put a frame on the front, but I think it looks fine as is. One of the things that I do quite like about it that's starting to happen, because it's quite late in the evening now, is if you can kind of pick up on it, I'm getting a bit of a drop shadow from some of the little bits and pieces. So that's quite nice that it's actually picking up some of the shadows in it and creating even more drama from it. So it's quite decent. We've looked at quite a few different skills in regards to our stretch tasks, all around narrative and hopefully building upon that idea of depth, understanding our foreground, midground, background. I'm still struggling with drawing in perspective, as I said about the point, and drawing my shapes accurately, so I definitely need to practice that quite a bit. So in the next few lessons we'll be having a look at double point perspective. It gets a lot harder, so I'll be doing that, but we are next going to be having a look at some artists and seeing how they do it too. So hope you're enjoying it so far. Take care, bye.